Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Arsenal Way. And yes, we are back at you with another episode of the Arsenal Agenda, the Arsenal Agenda Show, your daily show from Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. And of course, I'm joined by Alfie Lambert. Alfie, how are you, mate?
Morning, Bailey. Yeah, I'm not doing bad. Great to see you back on the show. Hope you had a good holiday. And how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It feels good to be back. It's been a while, but of course, I missed Arsenal. I couldn't be gone for so long, so it is good to be back. And of course, I come back during the heat of the transfer window, and Arsenal still have transfer business to do, and that's where we are going to start, Alfie. Let's start with Lucas Paqueta, and of course, before I went on holiday, Arsenal was still linked with him, and to this day, the transfer situation hasn't seemed to change. Arsenal are still reportedly interested, and reports are coming out that there is complications behind the deal because the current Lyon president wants Paqueta to leave, but the new ownership that's potentially coming in wants him to stay. Alfie, is this becoming a difficult transfer for Arsenal? Is it a player we should maybe steer away from, or still strive to try and sign?
Yeah, I think that from the complications, it does sound like it's going to be, a deal that we'll struggle to get. From what I've read, the new sort of majority owner wants to keep him, whereas, like you say, I think the Lyon president, excuse my French pronunciation, Jean-Michel Aulas, I think his name is. He said he was willing to sell him, but from what the sounds of it, the new sort of majority owner coming in wants to challenge PSG and create, a side that can compete in the French league, because as we've seen, obviously there was Lille won it the season before, but we've seen the dominance from Paris Saint-Germain in sort of the last decade or so. So I think it's just sort of them showing a bit more, a bit more fight for the league. So I mean, look, Lucas Paqueta is probably one of their better players. You can see why they want to keep him, and if they are willing to keep him, if we had any chance of signing him, I'm sure the price tag will go up. So I think it's looking like a deal that more and more, as the days go by, it's sort of more and more unlikely. And I think that, Arsenal will look towards other targets.
Absolutely. Do you think Paqueta's a midfielder that we need? Do you think, of course, I know he can play box to box, but he is more known for his attacking attributes. And we have signed Fiera this window. Is Paqueta the profile midfielder we need, or should we be going for more of a defensive midfielder?
I think for me, he is a really good player, and you look at his technical ability. As you mentioned, like his pressing, his attacking prowess. But for me, I don't think he's sort of the ideal fit for the left central midfield role. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but I think he plays his best football in sort of that more attacking role as like maybe a number 10 or even as a false 9. And I think that for what we need, a player like Tielemans would fit better in that role. And I think just for the price tag as well, it would be, there's better options on the market. But I can't say, I do think he's a really good player. So, if he did join, I'm not going to say I'll be disappointed, but I just think there'd be money better spent elsewhere. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Paqueta, the deal is looking complicated. I think if Arsenal really wanted to get over the line, I think it would have been done by now with how much is being quoted. I think upwards of 50 million is a difficult transfer to complete. I think this late into the window, I think it's a deal that would have been more advanced at this point of stage. Unless it happens really towards the end of the window, I can't see it happen. I think Tielemans will be the midfielder. But we are going to switch on to Tielemans possibly because yesterday strange developments came out, Alfie, that Kasper Schmeichel could be leaving Leicester City and he wants to go to Nice in France. Now, of course, Leicester need a replacement, and I think the perfect replacement for them could be Bernd Leno, who seemed to be on his way to Fulham, but a deal seems to be stalling there. Is this a deal that you could see happening, Alfie? Leno to Leicester?
Yeah, definitely. I think with Fulham, obviously, it's been going. The transfer saga with Bernd Leno to Fulham's been ongoing all summer. Fulham just wanting to get a cut price deal for Bernd Leno, and it seems that an £8 million deal was agreed. But with Leicester, I think Kasper Schmeichel for me has been one of the better keepers over again the last decade. Dropped off the last couple of seasons personally, and getting a player in like Bernd Leno, who is still a top quality goalkeeper, even though he's our second choice. I think he's still up there with one of the best shot stoppers in the league. So I think it's a transfer that makes sense, and I can see sort of the link between Tielemans and Leno, maybe a swap deal being included. It's maybe a bit cheeky, but we've seen the interest has been there all summer, so it makes sense for Arsenal to sort of, include Leno in any transfer dealings, because again, I think it's a transfer that works well for both parties. Tielemans in the last year of his deal, if he doesn't sign, he could end up going even cheaper in January, or potentially on a free next summer. And if they do lose Schmeichel, so I think it's Nice that have been touted with signing him. It sort of shoots two birds with one stone. They get a top quality goalkeeper, and then they also get added transfer funds, because I'm sure we'd pay an extra 15-20 million on top of Bernd Leno if the swap deal did go ahead. So for me, I think it would be a transfer swap that makes sense, a lot more sense than the transfer swaps that we've seen at Arsenal previously.
Absolutely, but does it worry you potentially Leicester could be a rival to Arsenal in the Premier League this season? I know they didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, but of course Leicester have always been up and around under Brendan Rodgers. They do improve. Would it be more of an incentive to sell Leno to Fulham rather than Leicester, despite the possibility of bringing Tielemans the other way?
I think it's. I can see the thinking in that. Obviously, Leicester, a disappointing season for them last year. I think they improved towards the end. They had a couple of players out. I know Fofana obviously sustained that injury in pre-season and come towards the end. We know how vital he was to them the season before. But it looks like they've got a couple of outgoings. I know James Maddison's been linked with a move away, and Tottenham interested in him. Obviously, Tielemans, you'd expect him to move this summer. And if they do lose Kasper Schmeichel, I think some of the players there, Jamie Vardy, a top striker, but he's not getting any younger. So I'm not sure whether I'd consider Leicester rivals with, I know I keep mentioning it, the way that we're going in an upwards momentum. And for me, I think Leicester have just sort of stagnated after, the FA Cup win. I think they should have got Champions League football that year as well, and obviously ended up dropping out. And I think that was maybe a factor in this sort of, stagnation for them. But I think if Leicester were to offer more money, or it sort of meant that the deal for Tielemans would be easier, I think that we'd sort of make business with Leicester, because I think it would just make a lot more sense than selling to Fulham if we'd get less money for him.
Yeah, it would make more sense. But the fact that we haven't gone in for Tielemans already, do you think a possible swap that would persuade Edu to sign Tielemans? Do you think it's money, the factor, the way you haven't signed him? Or do you think it's another factor why we haven't bought in Tielemans?
No, I think it is the money side of things. They've mentioned about the outgoings, Edu and Arteta have, and we've struggled all summer to get some of the players out. Obviously, not up to scratch for Arsenal, and I think people probably seeing that elsewhere. So I think the fact that personal terms have reportedly been agreed for months now. So for me, it's sort of a deal that we've been trying to leave as long as possible to get as much money off, leave it to the last minute and force Leicester to sell, because, at the moment they're in a better position than Arsenal are. There's still a month left of the transfer window. So for me, it is the money aspect side. So if chucking Leno in there, it not only frees up a position in the squad, it frees up, a bit of cash and gets a cut price deal on Tielemans potentially.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure to leave your questions in the comment section, because we'll be answering them towards the end of the show. So make sure just to leave your thoughts on Tielemans and other players who could be leaving, and ask Alfie or me a question on what you think could happen in the transfer window. But Alfie, let's talk about outgoings now. You mentioned it briefly about needing to sell players to bring in players. Now, one player that has been linked with a move away from the club is Nuno Tavares. Now, of course, Atalanta have been heavily linked to him. Brighton have also been linked to him, and Marseille. Now, it looks like Atalanta are furthest in their advanced negotiations to sign him. But I think the sticking point is a buy option in the potential loan. Now, Alfie, do you believe that Arsenal should still accept a deal with a buy option in the loan move, or do you think we should reject completely and must say that it's just a loan move and no possible buy option in the deal?
I think that if any recent transfer business is to go by, we shouldn't include a buy option. Obviously, two notable ones. Guendouzi, I think it was right to get rid of him, but I think we could have got a lot more money for him, if we hadn't have included that and sold him to Marseille after the loan move. And another one, Mavropanos, had a really good season out in Germany, and I think we sold him for about 2-3 million. So for me, that was awful business. So looking at Tavares, you can see the talent in there, and I think it's just sort of he needs to have it coached into him. For me, he's not a left back; he's more of like a wing back, potentially even a winger. I think he's a lot better going forward than he is defensively. And watching Atalanta over the last sort of few seasons, they've been known to play free at the back with wing backs. I think that it'd be perfect for Tavares' development. I think that he'd suit the league. I think he'd slot in really well there, and I think that it could be, his breakthrough season. And if he does come back as a winger, watching that, like, they are so attacking. They score. I think their sort of tactics is just to outscore the opponent. It doesn't matter how many they concede. I mean, I remember a 4-4 against Torino that I watched. It's crazy stuff over there. So I feel like it would be brilliant for his development as a wing back, but going forward, it could potentially lead to him being a winger. So I'd stick away from a buy option. I don't know what you think about the deal, Bailey.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think it'd be stupid to insert a buy option, as you mentioned. Guendouzi, Mafropanos, of course, they came back from the loan with much greater value, and I think the same would be for Nuno. I think Nuno has excellent potential, and he can be an excellent asset for Arsenal. I think if we include a buy option now, it'd be much less than what he will be worth in a couple of seasons, let's say, especially if he does go on loan to a club like Atalanta, where he can really excel, be more of a winger, maybe get his goal and assist improvements, maybe get more there, so his value increases that way, and then Arsenal can sell him for more at the end of the season if he's not ready to break into the Arsenal team. So I agree with you. I think he's a player with a lot of potential, and even if he goes to, let's say, a different club, let's say if he goes to Brighton, that's perfect for his development. He can maybe improve on the defensive side of things and come back a much stronger and better left back. So you just don't know when you put buy options in young players' clauses. It's a risk. It's a risk because they can be valued much higher when they do come back from their loan. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If I had to choose, I'd definitely say stay well away from the buy option in the loan clause and just make it a straight loan. I think a loan would be a good move for him and a good move for Arsenal. But if you include that buy option, then it would be a terrible move for Arsenal and a disappointing move for him as well. So I think there is space for him at Arsenal. I think there is still a career for him in North London. And if he does have a couple of successful loans, then definitely he can succeed in an Arsenal shirt. But we shall see. Now, before we do end the show, let's move on to your guys' questions in the comment section. And Alfie, we'll start here. Lee Clark asks, would you be happy to start the season with the squad we have now, or do you think we still need to be in the market in order to be ready for the Palace game on August the 5th?
That's a good question. Good question. I think for the Palace game, I think that we've got the squad there. I'd be happy with, the starting 11 out of the players that we have currently. But I think for the season, I'd like a couple more additions, as sort of everyone's sort of mentioned, an extra sort of winger, a wide forward, and a central midfielder, because I think throughout the season, the rotation is going to be key. Obviously, 5 subs. Now with European football, we're going to need that extra squad depth. But I mean, looking on paper at the starting 11 that we could pick out from the squad we've got, even if say Tierney and Tomiyasu aren't fit for the Palace game, I'd still be confident going in there with Ben White at right back and Zinchenko at left back. And if we're talking about that left central midfield role, I think that Granit Xhaka would go there. So happy for the first couple of games, but I think we do need to get a couple more additions before the transfer window ends.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Palace game, I think the squad's ready now, but yeah, I think before the transfer window ends, a couple more additions just to really bulk up the squad for Europe and for the rest of the Premier League season. So I definitely agree with you there, Alfie. Umar asked, the legendary Umar, of course, he asked, Bailey, what's your thoughts on Zinchenko to Arsenal? Surely KT's place in the first team is under threat now. And I have to agree with you. I think before I did watch the Chelsea game where I could actually see Zinchenko in the team, I was thinking, okay, no, I think he'll be more of a midfielder or a potential backup to Tierney, but he wouldn't threaten Kieran Tierney's place. But when you saw him against Chelsea in the friendly and you saw the impact he has on the team, not just defensively, but going forwards, and he also gives more space to Martin Odegaard. He can drift over to the right-hand side and create the excellent link up with Bukayo Saka, because Zinchenko does come into the midfield more. You realise how actually important Zinchenko is to the team. So I would have to say yes, I agree with you. I think Tierney's place in the team is definitely threatened, and it's good because as much as I love Kieran Tierney, as much as an excellent left back he is, you can't trust him due to his injury issues. And I think we do need a left back who can offer something different, a left back who's more reliable. Zinchenko was hardly ever injured at Manchester City. So he's pretty good in that department, and he can come in and be an excellent replacement. So yeah, I'd definitely say Tierney's place is thrown by Zinchenko. And Alfie, the last question of the show is from Matt Tomo, who asked, if you could sign one player right now, anyone, whether we've been linked or not, who would it be?
And if we're talking realistic, then Tielemans. But if we're going for a dream signing, I know we mentioned it on the mystery winger show last night, it'd have to be Leroy Sané. I think that he would complete that front three. And I'd just love to watch us. It'd be back to watching Arsenal, when I was younger under Wenger, just the free-flowing football. And I think it'd just be a joy to watch. And I think we'd surprise a few next season.
Absolutely. Leroy Sané, what a magnificent signing that would be. But one can dream. You never know what can happen towards the end of the window, Alfie. Maybe your dream might just come true, but we shall see. Guys, we are going to end the show there. Thank you for tuning in. Alfie, as always, mate, thank you for hopping on.
No, thank you for having me on, and thank you to everyone for listening, for getting your questions in. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, guys. Make sure to leave your comments in the comment section. Do you believe we will sign Lucas Paqueta? Should we sign Tielemans? Should we maybe make Leno as makeshift to bring in Tielemans? Let us know what you think. Should Nuno have a buy option in his loan clause? Please let us know in the comment section, and make sure you like the video as well, guys, and subscribe. And most importantly, make sure you keep following us down the Arsenal way. 49, 49, and it's playing for the Arsenal way.